Hey guys, just wanted to follow up and continue talking about the nervous system today. And I'll probably keep this pretty brief if we can, um, so we can keep moving through this human body stuff. I also have another lab. Maybe I'll give you tomorrow if you want to try and do some stuff at home. Yesterday we talked about the central nervous system, that is the brain and the spinal cord. We also talked about like the peripheral nervous system, which is the motor neurons and the sensory neurons that spread out from the brain and the spinal cord. Today, let's focus a little bit on the brain and the actual cells that send and receive electrical messages. So these are some basic overall sections of brain that are highlighted. Now, here's what you have to understand about the brain. It's really, really hard to study how the brain works and functions because it's kind of hard to get and study the brain while the patient is alive and the brain is working. So it's a relatively new thing that we're looking at, and we do it in roundabout ways by hooking up electrodes to people's house or heads or um, things like that. So and ask them to look at pictures and think of things. So and seeing what parts kind of activate with electrical signals. But these are just some general regions of the brain. You're definitely welcome to click on the little icon here, and that's me walking you through this slide as well. But I'll do it briefly here too, just so you can see, and then we'll talk about the neurons. So this frontal lobe in red, this is kind of like the front part of your head above your eyes, and this is kind of complex cognition, so problem solving, that tough math problem when you're really, really trying to focus on doing some intellectual task. Like this is the part that's really getting activated. You can activate it as well. There's a direct connection with like taking a deep breath through your nose. A few deep, slow breaths through your nose will increase oxygen to this area of your brain and actually help it function better. So if you get that test that's really hard, or that, you know, project that's really making you think, just take a second, take a few deep breaths. It has to go in through your nose and out through your mouth, and it should help you focus a little bit. Back here, the parietal lobe. This is kind of sensory stuff. So this is kind of like the upper back part of your head. This is sensing temperature, taste, touch, smells, things like that. So definitely a sensory activated area. And then if you go all the way into the back of your skull, you have the occipital lobe, and believe it or not, this is actually where your eyeballs, which would be located in the front, their nerve directly connects to the occipital lobe in the back. So this area is in charge of um, visual processing. And so we're looking at images, interpreting images, flipping images, etc., stuff like that, for that come from your eyes. If you ever get hit in the back of the head, and I've definitely done that, wearing a helmet, done some crashes and stuff, and if you see stars, it's this area actually like, firing and activating, and you look like you see little like twinkles, and it's because of random neuron firing here. It really has nothing to do with actually seeing something with your eyes. So anyway, that's in the back of your head. It's important to wear those bike helmets so they protect that area of your head too. So the bike helmet should drop down over the back of your skull, as well as being on top of your head. Then we have the temporal lobe. This is on the side of your head, and a lot of senses are done here. A lot of memories are stored here, as far as we can tell. And then in the very bottom, almost at the base of your skull, right where your spinal cord leaves, is the cerebellum. And this area is in charge of motor skills, coordination, body placement, balance, things like that. This area I always think is great in middle schoolers. I mean, your brain is growing because your body's growing. This is setting up new connections as your body grows and gets bigger. I love middle schoolers because you guys look so uncoordinated when you play certain athletic things. Some of you don't, but a lot of you guys look really uncoordinated. And it's really because this area of the brain is trying to catch up with how fast your body is growing. And by the time you get done growing as fast as you're doing, then it starts to make all the connections, it figures things out, and by the time you're done with like high school, people are really, really coordinated and they have great skill. So, but it does take a little bit of time for this thing to catch up to how fast your body is growing. One more slide here, and then you can watch this little video. It's just a quick little GIF. This is the neuron. This is the cell that is involved in sending an electrical message. And you can see that green arrow I have in here. This is the direction in which the message is sent. So in this particular case, it's going from left to right. If you wanted a message to go from right to left, you would actually have to have a different neuron, a different one of these, and it would have to be flipped in the opposite direction. Okay, these are one-way streets. So I'm going to label it real quick for you. It is kind of important. You're welcome to label your own on your own notes. There is a bunch of different weird parts to this thing, and this part can be extremely long. Remember that the longest neuron in the body is about 1 meter long in an adult, and it runs from the foot up to the spinal cord. So let's just grab different words, and I'll place them where they're supposed to go. So Axon Terminal, you can think of terminal, terminus, it's the end. So at the end of your neuron, okay? So that's this part right here. These are the terminals, this is the end. Okay, this signal actually starts at the opposite side, which is over here. All these branches are called dendrites. And they reach out and touch other neuron terminals, axon terminals, around them. So you'd have another neuron linked up over here, its terminal would end, and then the dendrite would touch or come really close to touching the end of that other one. So this is where the signal starts, and it travels down the dendrite and into the cell's body, which is right here. And you know that's the body of the cell with the mitochondria and the cytoplasm and the all the other organelles, vacuoles and stuff. It also has a nucleus right there as well. So that's the main part of the cell. And then the signal gets sent down this long, I'm gonna call it a tail. It's actually termed an axon. And the axon's actually underneath this yellow stuff. It's purple there, okay? That's the part that's carrying the electrical signal. The question is, what is this yellowy stuff? And that's actually like, you can think of like insulation and rubber over one of our electrical wires that we use in our home. This is called the myelin sheath, okay? And it's this yellowy stuff. And the myelin sheath's job is to actually insulate the electrical signal, and it speeds it up as it travels down the axon. So it actually lets the electrical signal speed up. And an interesting fact about that is that as you age, that actually kind of goes away. It dissolves, it erodes, and those neurons become slower. The electrical signal traveling from the dendrite to the terminal becomes slower. And so like how quick you can sense things and how quick you can react to them will actually slow down as you grow older. And you can think about old people driving. That might give you an idea of what I mean there. Sometimes the reactions are a little bit slow compared to someone who's, say, 18 or 19. Okay, and then the next slide is just a video to go ahead and watch. Okay, I really like this slide. Let's come back to this one when we talk tomorrow about one of the activities I can give you. It's called a ruler drop, and you can definitely test people's reactions in your household, and you could kind of experiment based on age or gender or something like that if you want. But I'll give you that assignment tomorrow, and I'll deal with this, and I'll kind of go over it one more time before we do that one. Okay? Have a good rest of the day, guys.